to Wellness Trends. Today we are going to talk about how to curb salt cravings. As you know, there are people who have been struggling with sugar cravings, and on the other side, there are also people who have been struggling with salt cravings. So we are looking at salt in terms of sodium chloride, and salt has three functions in the body. The first one is the control of nerve and muscle function. We're also looking at the regulation of movement of fluids in the body, and also control of blood pressure and volume. So in the market there are two types of salt. There is the sea salt and the table salt. So the table salt is the processed salt, and the sea salt is the most natural occurring, where you find the salt in the seabed, and thus they allow the water to evaporate, and now they take the salt and present it in the market. Normally what is advised is that you take the sea salt because it's more naturally occurring. It's preferred to the table salt, but when it comes to reality, they both have the same content in terms of sodium and chloride. And another thing to look at is the addition of iodine in the salt. So if both of them have iodine, then there is really no much difference on which one to choose. It's just a matter of preference. One is sea salt is natural occurring, table salt is processed.
Alright. So at least, as in, so I've just given a summary of the salt and the functions. So meaning it's important, but when it's taken in excess, it becomes a risk factor to the system. So let's just talk about because we need the RDA of around 2,300 milligrams per day of the sodium chloride, right? Yeah. So meaning if you take excess above that, now it becomes now a problem to the system. Yes. So let's just go maybe before we talk about the curbing, let's just talk about the risk factors of the salt, maybe the excess salt in the system. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can just mention as we go, just mention, then later in a video or another day we're going to do a detail of the risk factors. So let's just talk about the risk factor. Maybe you can just mention as we go.
Okay, one of the issues of excess salt is, as you know, we have the impaired function, of course, of the nerve and muscle. There is the issue with it affects the blood pressure, and we also excess salt at some point may also lead. It's also say that it causes stomach cancer. Yes.
Yes, and also kidney.
Yeah,
because the kidney helps in
excretion.
So meaning you're overworking it. So at least, so that's just an outline. We're going to do a more detailed in a later video on this thing. So today we're just going to cover the curbing. How will we curb the excess salt intake, or how the craving is? So we're just going to outline a bit and give summaries. Yes. So maybe the one that maybe is really maybe covers a lot is let's talk about the you need to understand your triggers. Yeah, triggers. Both, even if you are doing in the sugar, you need to know your triggers. Yeah. So maybe when talking about the triggers, maybe you can suggest maybe this.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, before we continue, when we are talking about 2,300 milligrams, we are looking at the one for sugar, for the teaspoon, this one per day. So in all your meals, yes, that's the amount of salt you're supposed to take in a day. That's enough for the system. Most of us surpass that. So what causes us to now? Those are the triggers I want to talk about. First of all, we are looking at behavioral. Some people, or even the way we were brought up, you are given a plate of food, even before you taste it, you find you add more salt. So it's just in the brain. So it takes time for you to change that behavior and learn to taste food first before you add salt. Also, the inverse is also true. You find when you are growing up, you are given food, even if it has less salt, you are told, don't add salt, and you have to stick to that. So at some point, when you do that over a prolonged period and the body is not getting enough salt, you find you'll end up developing the salt cravings, because of you've been taking a little salt, and now the system needs more.
Also maybe there's this about the emotional stress, maybe the emotional, for the emotional the stress. You see, so everyone has it's called how do you call it? When you're stressed, you are looking for something maybe to pacify you. Yes, so there are people maybe you can who go to the salt just to get the just sense of it, like a satisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, so there's the emotional stress that causes that. And also there's for those people who are really active, maybe you find that you sweat a lot. So, and when you happen to sweat, it means it goes out with the salt, and the system will need it. Yes. So that's why maybe for those who do very strenuous exercises, you need it's called water that's as maybe you can do more fruits, because fruits are really rich in the minerals. So you need to take a lot of fruits so that it replenishes when you deplete them maybe through the sweating. Yes. Then also maybe the last one for there's maybe for some people it's it may be underlying conditions. Maybe you might be having a condition that maybe brings that sense of maybe you'll feel that maybe you have maybe you have to take salt at any moment. So for the underlying causes, it's always good maybe if it's not the sweat, if it's not the emotional stress, or if it's not maybe you have been taking less for a long time and now the body wants the salt. Now if it's the underlying issue, now that one you have to seek at least your physician, maybe go to the physician, and he or she might do as further tests to ascertain the problem.
Yes, there are many conditions which lead to the body wanting more and more salt, especially the ones which deal with the kidney and the absorption of salts in the body. So when you have, maybe you don't know you have that disorder, you're just craving salt. So it's also good to go for a checkup to see there's electrolyte balance in your body, so that when it's abnormal, also the physician is able to advise on the way forward, and you don't wait till it's too late now to control any issue which might be with your health.
Yes, and also maybe the last cabin that you can do is you can use their spices, natural spices, which maybe you when you prepare your meals with, you'll feel that sense, because more of it might be even the taste, not really about what the system needs. So there are very different types of natural spices that you can add to the food just to bring the taste, so that you not reach for the table salt anytime. Yes. So let's talk about the salt. We have talked about three things. There's the triggers. You have to know your triggers when you want to curb salt. Then number two is now use other spices, like do spices, just increase it to the food, so that maybe brings out the taste. And also now the habit of which Marlon talked about. Yeah, so mostly happens with the fries. Maybe when the fries, before eating, you do add a bit of salt. So if you put the salt away, you will end up eating less. Yeah. So under the triggers, that's when we talked about the emotional stress. We talked about the underlying conditions. We talked about what else? It was emotional sweating. Yes.
From doing a strenuous activity, sweat, you lose salt.
Yes. So that one, you need to know the triggers. You need to know to Just it's more of making the food more tasty without too much salt. And now the new habits. Yes. So I think so we have come maybe to the end of the how to carb. And also maybe before just we close, there's this thing about taking salty snacks. Salty snacks. You'll find that at the end of the day you really take a lot of salt, like more than you are required daily allowance.
We can just repeat. We said it is this one for tea.
Very
Tea,
small,
1 teaspoon.
yeah.
It's just this small one. So that one per day, you can imagine that, and you usually eat like crisps. Crisps are also the science. Crisps is the most common culprit for that. You eat like a bag, and there's so much salt in it, you can even feel it. Though it makes you feel good, but you see it's not good for your health in the long run.
Okay. So thank you very much. Remember to subscribe, like, share, and comment, giving us maybe you can suggest the topics that you are interested in. Then we can plan on that.
Yes, you can also put your questions there in the comment section. We'll gladly